Well, it was far from pretty, but Texas A&M emerges from Colorado, or should I say escapes Colorado with a 10-7 victory this afternoon at Empower Mile High Field. A lot to get to and a lot to digest from that game. Quick recap for those that didn't get the chance to see it. Haynes King goes down for the Aggies on the second drive of the game. And in comes Zach Calzada, who the two of them battled throughout the spring. There's no other way to put it. It was a flat out just ugly first half for the Aggies. They didn't get a first down until late in the second quarter. Put together a drive late in the first half where you thought maybe, okay, they might be settling in. But it was just, other than late in the fourth quarter, it was just ugly. There's no other way to put it. The offensive line did not have a good day. The running game was there at times, but just non-existent. They only attempted just 29 carries for the Aggies on the day. Devon Achane finishes with 9 carries, 50 yards. Isaiah Spiller, 8 for 22. Not enough for either of those guys. But down the stretch late, Zach Calzada led the Aggies on a pair of long drives and comes up with a key throw late to Isaiah Spiller, and A&M escapes with a 10-7 victory. Beginning with Zach Calzada, there's a lot to kind of look at with him. It was a tough day overall. And it's not going to be good enough going forward. That's for sure. This was a tough situation to walk into Denver on the road, but he finishes 18 of 38 for 183 yards and a touchdown. Again, he had the fumble along the goal line, but for most of the day, A&M's offense just could not move the ball. They were in too many third down and long situations, and that starts with not being able to run the ball, frankly. And that falls on the A&M offensive line, which was probably one of the big concerns coming out of the day for me in this situation. It honestly didn't probably matter who was in at quarterback, to be frank. Even Haynes King, when he was in there, A&M didn't get much going early with him either. He was 1 for 2 for 8 yards before getting hurt again on the second drive. And the A&M offensive line, the performance today was just not good enough. They didn't get any push up front. And frankly, they couldn't run it on third and short or get anything going on that front because they just couldn't get any sort of a push. So that, to me, that was one of the big things of the day. Was they just really, against a front that they should have been able to handle. Communication was off, had a mistake late. We saw Bryce Foster put A&M in a really bad situation late when he didn't get the snap off, caused a delay of game penalty on 3rd and 4, which forced that 3rd and 9 that Calzada hit Isaiah Spiller for the touchdown in the corner of the end zone. But just overall, that's SEC play is now 2 weeks away, and it's not going to be good enough in 2 weeks. They've got to get this figured out. Overall, though, if you're an A&M fan, you obviously are happy to come out with the win. That's the first big takeaways. You're happy to escape Colorado, keyword escape, with a win, but there's a lot this team needs to improve on. And New Mexico next week, you want to see a lot better performance, even against a team like New Mexico, because Arkansas has rebounded after a tough week 1, and they're up early here in their second game of the season, and you need to be ready to go in 2 weeks. Alabama is right around the corner too, and a performance like today is not going to get it done against Alabama, not even close. So that's, to me, the big takeaway. Again, A&M escapes with a 10-3 victory over Colorado. Just starting with Zach Calzada, who again came in early in the first half for Haynes King. There was no update after the game from Jimbo Fisher. He said they're still waiting on more information about the extent of Haynes King's injury. He finishes 18 of 38 for 183 yards 1 touchdown. He was sacked once, made a few plays with his legs. He finished with 7 carries for 31 yards. Had a big third down run early in the second half. But to be frank, for most of the first half, he just looked rattled. He just looked rattled, and that was one big thing is A&M, lost their cool in the first half. Did not get anything going. But you have to give them credit late. That was a gritty throw late to come up with the touchdown pass. But you've got to use this week now to get him some reps, get him in a rhythm with receivers. Too many balls that were behind receivers today, or high or over the middle, and just not enough on the receiving end. Dylan Weidemeyer finishes with 4 catches for 66 yards. Isaiah Spiller, 6 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown. But one of the stories of the game, frankly, on a bright note for A&M, was the play of the defense. A&M's not in this game without the play of their defense. They played outstanding. We're put in a lot of tough scenarios, and time again came up with the stops needed. They limited Colorado to just 14 total first downs, which was pretty good considering how much they were on the field. They held Colorado at 89 yards passing, 13 to 25, 260 yards total, which in a lot of cases would be enough for a comfortable win. But they really stepped up today and really did exactly what they needed to do in that situation. Brendan Lewis really struggled today, 13 of 25 for 89 yards and an interception. Jaden Peavy had an interception early for the Aggies. If there was one area that Colorado was able to get some movement, it was on the ground. Brendan Lewis finished with 9 carries for 79 yards, and so that's the second week in a row that A&M struggled maybe a little bit defending a mobile quarterback. They were able to get him out on the edge a couple times, especially in the second half when they really couldn't get anything going. The MVP of this game for me is no question was Antonio Johnson. He was absolutely fantastic, reading plays, coming out in the second half with a couple of pass deflections. Just really, this was a game that I think opened a lot of people's eyes as to how good he can really be. That was a huge win for A&M in a recruiting process, and the sky's the limit for him going forward. And he really played outstanding today. Finished with 9 tackles, 2 pass breakups, and was just extremely active. Really good game as well from Jaden Peavy. Again, he had the interception, had a pass breakup, 2 tackles for a loss, and 7 tackles. Marvin Leal was also very active. He had a tackle for a loss as well and a pass breakup. But really, a lot was put on the defense's shoulders, and they showed up in a big way this afternoon. And without what they were able to do, A&M is not in this game at all, and they allowed them to overcome just a terrible offensive performance. I think one of the things I was really curious about this game was the lack of a running game, and I'm not sure it was necessarily a lack of production at times. It was a lack of opportunities, because if you look at Devon Achane, he averaged over five yards per attempt, and Jimbo Fisher talked about after the game that there were some stunts and things that Colorado was doing that thwarted them a little bit in the run game, but it was just perplexing on certain situations to not stick with the run game more, especially given how out of whack offensively A&M was. It was really perplexing that Isaiah Spiller only finishes with 8 carries. Devon Achane finishes with 9 carries. In a situation like this, they're going to have to, depending on how long Haynes King was out. Again, Jimbo Fisher did not have an update after the game, said they're still waiting on more information. But they're going to have to lean on those 2 guys when you start looking at Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Alabama. Yeah, there's no question. Just an ugly performance offensively, and I think that was one of the big things for me was you kept waiting for the running game to get going, or for them to at least stick with the running game. And they just put the ball in the air 38 times for Zach Calzada is too much. It's too much. It put him in a lot of they were in, for me, they were in third and long too many situations. And credit Zach Calzada for making some big throws in the fourth quarter. That's something that, I'm sure A&M will try to build on with some of the throws that he made late. He seemed to settle into a bit of a groove in the second half, but boy, A&M should feel very fortunate to get out of this game with a win. But that's ultimately what it comes down to sometimes is you're not always going to play your best. You're not always going to have your best stuff. And A&M found a way to at least, win and survive. But there is a lot to clean up going forward. And you take the wins when you get them. A&M, again, moves to 2-0 on the year.